Chance encounters. Sophia Chen wiped flour-covered hands on her apron as she surveyed the morning's pastry display. The scent of caramelized sugar and fresh bread filled Shoreline Bakery, her cozy haven nestled between antique shops in the sleepy coastal town of Newport. At 32, she'd built a reputation for creating desserts that tasted like memories, comfort wrapped in flaky crusts and sweet glazes. "Jules, can you take the register? I need to finish the maple pecan tarts before the lunch crowd," Sophia called to her assistant, tucking a strand of dark hair behind her ear. The bell above the door chimed, and she glanced up instinctively. Time seemed to slow as a tall figure entered, bringing with him a rush of cool autumn air and an avalanche of memories. "Ethan?" The name escaped her lips before she could stop it. The man turned, his green eyes widening in recognition. "Sophia, is that really you?" Ethan Walsh had been her first love, the quiet, thoughtful music student who'd carried her books and written her songs during their senior year. They'd been inseparable until graduation, when his scholarship to Juilliard had taken him to New York, while she stayed behind to help her ailing father. Their goodbye had been filled with promises of visits and letters that gradually faded into silence. The boy she remembered had transformed. Gone was the lanky teenager with perpetually disheveled hair. In his place stood a confident man in a tailored jacket with neatly trimmed hair and an expensive watch glinting on his wrist. "I had no idea this was your place," he said, approaching the counter. "It's beautiful." "Thanks," she replied, suddenly conscious of her flour-dusted appearance. "What brings you back to Newport?" "Last I heard, you were in Silicon Valley." Ethan smiled, the familiar crinkle around his eyes momentarily transporting her back to evenings spent on the beach, with their futures spread before them like constellations. "I'm here for a few weeks. My company's considering opening an office in Portland, and I needed some quiet to finalize the plans." "Your company?" Sophia raised an eyebrow. "What happened to becoming the next great composer?" A shadow crossed his face. "Life took some unexpected turns. I actually founded a tech company that creates music education software. We just closed our Series C funding." The awkward silence that followed was broken by Jules dropping a tray of cups. Sophia seized the distraction, excusing herself to help. When she returned, Ethan was studying the menu. "What would you recommend?" "The blackberry lavender scone. It's what put us on the map," she replied, slipping back into professional mode. Their fingers brushed as she handed him the pastry, sending an unwelcome spark up her arm. He took a bite and closed his eyes. "This is incredible, Soph." The nickname, so casually spoken, pierced through her practiced politeness. No one had called her that in years. "Thanks," she managed. "So, you'll be around for a while?" "A few weeks, maybe longer." His gaze held hers. "I'd love to catch up properly. Dinner, maybe?" Sophia hesitated, memories of tearful nights and unanswered messages flashing through her mind. "I'm pretty busy with the bakery." "Just as friends," he added quickly. "It's been too long." Before she could answer, her phone rang, the supplier about tomorrow's delivery. When she finished the call, Ethan had left, but a business card sat on the counter with a note. "Some things change, some don't. I still take my coffee with too much sugar. Tomorrow?" Sophia tucked the card into her pocket, telling herself it was simply curiosity about the path not taken, nothing more. But as the afternoon light streamed through the windows, she found herself wondering what version of Ethan had returned to Newport, and what he might see when he looked at the woman she'd become. Whispers of the past. True to his word, Ethan returned the following morning. Sophia spotted him through the window before he entered, his tall frame leaning against his car, seemingly gathering courage. She busied herself with the espresso machine, pretending not to notice when the bell announced his arrival. "One coffee with too much sugar?" she offered before he reached the counter. His smile was warm. "You remembered." "Hard to forget someone who ruins perfectly good coffee," she teased, the banter feeling surprisingly natural despite the years between them. Over the next week, Ethan became a regular, arriving each morning just after the early rush. He'd settle at the corner table with his laptop, occasionally glancing up to catch her eye. On Friday, when the bakery quieted after lunch, he approached the counter. I'm heading to the pier this evening, he said, fidgeting with his coffee cup. They're having that sunset market you used to love. Would you consider joining me? Still just as friends. Against her better judgment, Sophia agreed. The coastal breeze carried salt and memories as they walked along the boardwalk, stopping at stalls selling local crafts. Sophia relaxed as they fell into conversation about their lives since high school. Everyone thought you'd become a famous pianist, she said, watching him examine a hand-carved wooden box. What really happened with music? Ethan sighed, setting down the trinket. My second year at Juilliard, I developed tendinitis. Pretty severe. The doctor said I could play recreationally, but a concert career was out of the question. Ethan, I had no idea. Her hand instinctively touched his arm. It was devastating, he admitted. I disappeared for a while, even from myself. That's why I stopped writing. I couldn't face telling you I'd failed. You could never be a failure to me, she said softly. They paused at the pier's edge, watching the sunset paint the water in amber and gold. What about you? He asked. You always talked about studying in Paris. Sophia stared at the horizon. Dad's stroke changed everything. The bakery started as a way to pay medical bills, but it became my anchor. By the time he recovered enough for me to leave, I'd already built something that mattered here. Your pastries are extraordinary. You've created something special. His sincere admiration warmed her more than it should have. As darkness fell, they walked back toward town, their hands occasionally brushing. Outside her apartment, Ethan hesitated. I'd like to see you again, Sophia, not just as customers and baristas. She looked up at him, studying the familiar yet different face. I'd like that too, she finally said, surprising herself with her honesty. As his fingers gently traced her cheek before saying good night, Sophia wondered if some embers never truly went cold, just waited for the right moment to reignite. Walls and windows. The following Tuesday, Sophia was elbow-deep in sourdough when her assistant Jules burst into the kitchen. There's a delivery for you, and you're going to freak out. In the cafe stood the largest arrangement of wildflowers Sophia had ever seen, all local blooms in the sunset colors they'd admired at the pier. The card simply read, "Dinner tonight? I'll cook." That evening, she found herself at Ethan's rented beach house, watching him navigate the kitchen with unexpected skill. When did you learn to cook? She asked, accepting the glass of wine he offered. After my injury, I needed something to do with my hands, he explained, chopping herbs with precision. There's something meditative about it, like music, but you get to eat the results. Over dinner, they shared stories of their time apart. Ethan described founding his company, Harmonix, which created adaptive music learning software for children with disabilities. Sophia told him about her father's recovery and her dreams for expanding the bakery. As they cleared dishes together, their conversation flowed easily until Ethan's phone buzzed repeatedly. After the fifth call, he apologetically answered. I'm sorry, there's an issue with our latest software update, he explained afterward, looking torn. I need to join a call with the development team. Go ahead, Sophia said, gathering her things. I understand. This isn't how I wanted the evening to end, he said, walking her to the door. It's fine. We're both busy people now. But as she drove home, Sophia couldn't help feeling a familiar disappointment. Different circumstances, same result. Work would always come first for Ethan. The next morning, he didn't appear at the bakery, nor the day after. On the third day, as Sophia was closing up, Jules rushed in. The power's out on the whole block. The refrigerators, Sophia's heart sank. Without power, thousands of dollars of ingredients would spoil. As she frantically called electricians, the bakery door opened, revealing Ethan with a massive generator. I heard about the outage, he said simply. Let's get this connected. Together they worked for hours, saving her inventory. When the lights finally flickered back on near midnight, Sophia collapsed into a chair. Thank you, she said, exhaustion evident in her voice. You didn't have to do this, Ethan sat beside her. I'm sorry I disappeared. There was a crisis at work, and I flew to San Francisco to handle it. He took her hand. But I realized something while I was gone. 10 years ago, I chose work over us because I was afraid of failing. I don't want to make that mistake again. Sophia looked at their intertwined fingers. I built walls after you left, she admitted. It felt safer that way. Maybe, he said gently. We could try building windows instead. Part 4. Beneath the surface, autumn deepened around them as Sophia and Ethan cautiously rebuilt their connection. Morning coffee evolved into evening walks along the beach, and weekend explorations of coastal towns neither had appreciated during their youth. On a particularly clear night, Ethan surprised her with a picnic atop the lighthouse hill, where they'd shared their first kiss 15 years earlier. "Do you remember that terrible poetry I wrote you?" he asked, laying out a blanket beneath the stars. Sophia laughed, settling beside him. "How could I forget? You compared my eyes to deep pools of mystery where mermen could dwell." In my defense, I was 17 and completely infatuated, he protested, unpacking containers of food. Their laughter faded into a comfortable silence as they gazed at the constellations. Sophia turned to find Ethan studying her face. "What are you thinking?" she asked softly. "That success isn't what I thought it would be," he confessed. "I built a company valued at billions, but most days I feel disconnected, like I'm watching my life from a distance." Sophia nodded, understanding more than she expected. "I know that feeling. The bakery is everything I've worked for, but sometimes I wonder if I settled for security instead of chasing bigger dreams." "Like Paris?" he asked. "Not just Paris. Opening multiple locations, creating a cookbook, seeing if my pastries could be more than just local favorites." She looked away, embarrassed by her admission. Ethan reached for her hand. "Why haven't you?" "Fear," she said simply. "Fear of failing, of leaving what's comfortable. Fear that I'm not actually good enough." He pulled her closer. "Sophia Chen, you are the most talented, determined person I've ever known. The world deserves your pastries, and you deserve to find out how far your dreams can take you." Their kiss began tentatively, a question neither had dared to ask aloud. Then, as starlight spilled around them, hesitation melted into certainty. His hands traced the curve of her waist as hers found the familiar path along his shoulders. There on the hilltop, the years between them dissolved, replaced by a deeper understanding of who they'd become. Later, wrapped in the blanket against the cooling night air, Sophia rested her head on Ethan's chest. "We're different people now," she whispered. "How do we know this isn't just nostalgia?" "Because," he said, pressing a kiss to her forehead, "I'm falling in love with who you are today, not who you were then. Your strength, your creativity, the way you've built a life on your own terms. That's who I'm falling for." As they descended the hill hand in hand, Sophia realized walls could indeed become windows when you found someone worth letting in. Full circle. 3 weeks later, Sophia entered her bakery to find Ethan waiting with an unexpected proposal. "Harmonix is opening its Portland office next month," he explained, spreading architectural plans across the counter. "But I've been thinking about something else, too. What if we created a space where your bakery could expand? A flagship location in Portland with room for classes, cookbook development, everything you've dreamed of." Sophia stared at the plans, emotions warring within her. "You want to invest in my bakery?" "I want to invest in you," Ethan clarified. "The business details are up to you. Loan, partnership, whatever makes you comfortable. But I believe in your talent, Sophia." Instead of joy, anxiety washed over her. "Is this why you came back? To turn me into some project you can fix?" Hurt flashed across his face. "That's not what this is. Then what is it? Because suddenly you're planning my future in Portland when we haven't even discussed what happens when you leave again." The silence between them stretched taut. "You're right," he finally said. "I got ahead of myself." He gathered the plans. "For the record, I don't plan on leaving again." After he departed, Sophia sat alone in her bakery, questioning everything. Was she rejecting opportunity out of fear? Was Ethan's investment offer genuine or an attempt to control what happened between them? That evening, she drove to his beach house, finding him on the porch watching waves crash against the shore. "I'm scared," she admitted, sitting beside him. "Not of expanding the business, but of trusting that you'll stay. Of believing I can have both the career and the relationship." Ethan took her hands. "I understand fear, Sophia. I've let it dictate too many choices." But I've realized something. True success isn't what you achieve. It's who you become. And I want to become someone who doesn't run from love. What about your company? Your life in California? I can run Harmonix from anywhere. The Portland office isn't just a business decision. It's a life decision. I want to build something that matters, with someone who matters more. Tears welled in Sophia's eyes. 15 years ago, we were too young to choose each other over our dreams. Maybe now we're old enough to realize they can be the same thing. 3 months later, Shoreline Bakery remained open in Newport, now managed by Jules. Meanwhile, Sophia and Ethan divided their time between the coastal town and Portland, where Sophia's new culinary studio occupied the ground floor of the same building as Harmonix's offices. On opening day, as customers lined up around the block, Ethan found Sophia in the kitchen, creating delicate sugar decorations for her signature pastries. Nervous? He asked, wrapping his arms around her waist. Terrified, she admitted. But the good kind of terrified. He turned her to face him. I have something for you. He placed a small box in her flour-dusted palm. Inside nestled a silver key on a chain. What's this? A key to our future, he said. I bought a house halfway between here and Newport. A place where we can build our life together, if you want to. Sophia looked up at the man who'd once been her first love, now transformed into her partner in every sense. Are you asking what I think you're asking? Ethan smiled, the familiar crinkle around his eyes now a beloved sight. I'm asking if you'll marry me, Sophia Chen. Not because of who we were, but because of who we are and who we can become together. As she pulled him down for a kiss that tasted of sugar and promises kept, Sophia realized some journeys weren't about reaching a destination, but about finding your way back to where you truly belonged.